Okay, all right. I will talk loudly. If you can't hear me, if I start being all quiet or something, just let me know.
Hey guys, can we bring all the chatter to a close so we can make up some lost time? I'm sorry. Thank you.
So again, this website will tell you who your representative is. That is the first very important step of lobbying your legislator for change for marijuana law. You can Google who represents me, but this is fyi.legis.state.tax.us. You can put your address in and it'll tell you exactly who they are. So I did it. I mean, I already knew, but let's say I had Jane Nelson as my senator and Craig Goldman as my representative. Fill this out here. You can just jot down their address and phone number. So when you contact them now, you're going to be looking for their local office information. Is there a or wherever you live? They're not in Austin right now. They're not going to be there till this coming January. So if you want to take a moment to do that, so we'll continue talking a little bit about, how to set up this meeting, kind of general things for having this meeting with your person, and then the next kind of set of things that we'll talk about after that is specific. I call it the messaging. What's the specific message that we want to talk? So let's see, we left off just talking about, I don't know, some people came in late, we're just going to do a full recap. The only way we can change these laws is by, an elected official introducing a bill, getting it passed during a legislative session. Legislative sessions are every 2 years. The next one begins January 10th, 2017. It's January 10th through May 29th. If it sounds like a very short period of time, it is. It's a really short window for thousands and thousands of bills to be introduced, for these people to consider them and listen to them all, and they're balancing their agendas and their constituents' desires and lobbyists, and it's just like a really crazy time during this legislative session. So it's the only time that change can happen, the only way it can happen. We can't just sign a petition and get a ballot measure. Like a lot of laws have kind of started changing in the country because the state was set up that way, but the state isn't set up that way. So this is how you can find out who represents you. Thank you. Is this still better? Can you guys hear me? Yeah, a little better. Hello, testing, is that good? Okay. So you can go here to this website, find out who represents you. All right. And you just call up their office. You're going to talk to, a receptionist, somebody who people call in. I mean, gosh, can you even imagine all the calls that they get? Just the things that are going on in this country right now. I mean, you can imagine that they're getting all kinds of calls from all kinds of people with all kinds of desires. But just call and let them know, who you are. Like I would say, I'm calling Craig Goldman's office. Tell them my name, my address. They want to verify that I am in that district. And I say, I would like to set up a meeting to talk to Representative Goldman. I have some concerns about the current state of marijuana laws in Texas, and I want them to change. I want to talk to him about medical marijuana, and just sit down and have a meeting with him about it. And they may ask you some follow-up questions, like I've been trying to get a meeting with my senator, Jane Nelson, for a while, and then it's tough because I work and I'm in school, and I wish I could follow up on it more. But they've asked me, well, do you have a child who's a medical patient, or are you a medical patient? So you can tell they're getting these calls. I mean, they have follow-up questions to ask about it. But they're not going to challenge you. They're not going to get mad at you for wanting this meeting. This is why they exist, is to listen to the constituents. This is why, what else are they going to do with their time that isn't a legislative session every 2 years? They're going to be in their local office talking to constituents about potholes and gun control and marijuana legalization. So you just tell them that you want to meet, and sometimes depending on how busy or kind of how big your senator or representative is, they might say, oh, well, so-and-so is the scheduler, they're going to call you back. Maybe ask for an email so you can follow up. If you feel like you're getting blown off, I mean, it's okay to keep calling, keep emailing. Always remain, respectful. But, you can be persistent. You have a right to talk to your representative about the legal issues that you care about. So once you get that meeting, you definitely want to prepare for it. Because, well, really, it'll just make you feel better. You'll feel more confident going in, knowing that you're prepared. You can use the sheet that we have. If some of you guys didn't get these, we'll have them available online. You can use this page right here to help you prepare. We have a place for personal introduction, talk about who you are. Are you a student, a parent, you're a business owner, you've lived here your whole life, you're active in your church, whatever it is that ties you to the community. We just want to have something that, that your representative can kind of get to know you and connect with you about. And then you want to list out exactly what you want to talk about. So I have sort of two main things to talk about when you go have these conversations. The first is, so basically, what do we want? What do we want from them? What do we want to do? I think the first thing is we want to stop arresting marijuana users. We want to stop the bleeding. Every year, 70,000 Texans are arrested for marijuana possession. So it's not even like the big stuff. That's just possession. That's just having a personal amount on you. And just think of the drain, on the system that is. You're getting arrested and processed. You just show up in court. This is a lot of work for police officers and the court system to deal with people who, aren't harming anyone at all. So we want to talk to them about a civil penalties bill. Okay, we have a civil penalties talking point sheet. That's one of your handouts. So every year, there's always a bill introduced to reduce civil penalties. It's to basically take marijuana use out of the criminal realm. No arrest, no jail time, no record. There are a lot of effects of having a criminal record if you're one of the 70,000 Texans yearly arrested for possession. Maybe you're not able to get a federal loan for school. Maybe you aren't if you have a drug conviction on your record. Maybe you're involved in any kind of family court proceeding with your kids, you're getting a divorce. That can be used against you, if you have a marijuana criminal record. You might get turned down for housing. You could get turned down for a job. So there's just a lot of effects of criminalizing marijuana use across the board. So that's one thing that we want to talk about. And I guess I would say, if you want to talk to your representative or senator about both the civil penalties and medical marijuana, it might be better to do it in two separate meetings. I think it's good to just focus on one thing at a time. There are so many things to talk about. We could just talk amongst ourselves now for the next 5 hours about why marijuana should be legal. We all have our stories and our reasons and facts and statistics to back it up. But I think we want to paint a picture that's just really simple for them to understand and really focused. So if you look at your civil penalties worksheet, there's just a bunch of facts on here that you can read them over, look for the things that that mean something to you. Maybe you have been arrested, you have a criminal record, or you want to talk about the economic factors, all the money we're basically throwing away by arresting Texans for marijuana use. Maybe you have been the victim of another crime and you think it's ridiculous that cops and prosecutors are having to spend all their time dealing with marijuana users, but they could be dealing with the person that broke into your house. Any way you can personalize these statistics is good. So that's civil penalties. I guess, is there any questions about talking about that? Any concerns or experiences that y'all have with that? We'll move on to the medical. So we've got 3 different handouts for your medical, the talking points, and then a couple pages of myths and rebuttals. And the myths and rebuttals are things like, oh, don't we already have like a pharmaceutical, a cannabis pharmaceutical, the drug Marinol, but in reality, it's not as helpful or effective as actual cannabis. So those are the things in these papers. I think the biggest thing that's happened in Texas is that in the last session, the Texas Compassionate Use Act was passed. And I know that it's certainly not perfect, it's not big enough, but it is such a huge step because now Texas acknowledges that cannabis does have medical value. And that in itself is huge, and I think that we can build on that. Basically, what the law is now, it's only for patients with intractable epilepsy, which is obviously a problem because there are so many medical conditions that can be helped by cannabis. It allows licenses to people to cultivate, process, and dispense low THC cannabis. So I think my understanding is that is no greater than 0.5% THC. When you hear about the CBD oil, And that is very helpful for people with intractable epilepsy, but it's not helpful for all epileptics, and it's certainly not helpful for all medical cannabis user patients. So we want to ask our representatives to improve this existing law. And I was talking to Heather Fazio. She's one of the people that runs the Texas for Responsible Marijuana Policy, who gave us these handouts and kind of this coalition of different grassroots activist groups for legalization. And I told her, I guess we want to talk about expanding this bill, right? And she's like, well, I like to use words like improving or making it more inclusive. I think that's a great point because, you're a representative and you're like, oh, expand it. I don't know, we gave you guys this. We're helping the children. What word do you want? But we're not Colorado. We're not gonna all be smoking pot in the streets. So just kind of the little things like that, when you hear expanded, to me, I'm like, yeah, we gotta expand it. But using words like, we want to improve this program and make it more inclusive for people that need cannabis. So the first thing that we want to do is to add to the list of qualifying conditions. All states are different in the conditions that they allow. Some are broad, some just have a very narrow list of a few things. But this is only for intractable epilepsy. So there's a couple of examples of other conditions that I think these are good to talk about with representatives because they're easy to relate to. There's lots of good statistics and facts to back them up. But one is PTSD for veterans. You hear about that a lot, and we have a lot of vets in Texas, and we can't just leave them behind. This legislation did leave them behind completely. And there are a lot of studies and anecdotal evidence that shows that cannabis is very helpful for dealing with PTSD. And when we have so many people coming back from overseas dealing with that, this would be very beneficial to them if they could participate in this program. Cancer. I mean, everybody knows somebody who's been affected by cancer. You had to go through chemo. It's hugely benefited by medical cannabis, but it's left out of this law. And chronic pain is another one. I want to talk about chronic pain because we have an opiate epidemic in this country. There's people, they have surgery, they start taking hydrocodone or something, they're addicted to it, they can't get it anymore, and they go die from a heroin overdose. And that's tragic. That's just horrific that that's happening. And if cannabis is able to be used to help with chronic pain, then that's huge. And I remember reading a study about in Colorado, after marijuana was completely legalized, that the use of narcotics went down. So people still, if you have a chronic pain condition, maybe you still need to use those narcotics. There's something wrong with them. They're valid legal drugs, but they can be really dangerous. But that people who are using cannabis could decrease the amount of those dangerous pharmaceuticals. And that's huge right there. So these are things that I think that they're good to talk about because they can be emotionally triggering to the representatives and senators. So there's good research about them, and a lot of people can relate to them. You're not going to meet a rep that hasn't met someone with PTSD or someone with cancer or really with chronic pain. Mm-hmm.
Also, regarding chronic pain and the narcotics, there is evidence and proof, and I'm living proof of that narcotics have worse side effects on me and the rest of my so-called healthy organs to support me not having pain all day long than the marijuana does.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I'm not a doctor, I can't say anything medical, but I mean, marijuana can't kill you. I mean, we all know that. It's never killed anybody, and people are dying from these prescription drugs, and so they're hard on your body. And I just think as adults, we have the right to choose what we put into our body. We shouldn't be punished for making a safer choice. So I think that especially if you have a condition that cannabis could help, and even if you're using cannabis to treat it, you don't have to tell them that. You don't have to say if you can. I mean, that's very powerful to go in and say, look at me, I'm a totally upstanding citizen. I'm coming to you wearing a blazer, and I use cannabis for a medical condition. You don't have to admit that you do, but just talking about the fact that, hey, I have this condition. I've done this research and talked to my doctor, and my doctor thinks that if I could take cannabis, it would help me, but I can't because I'd go to jail. I mean, that's very powerful and a good point to make with your representative. So that's the first way that we want to improve the compassionate use law that was passed, is to expand the conditions, the qualifying conditions. The next is to lift the cap on the amount of THC. mean, I'm not a scientist, I don't know, 0.5 THC, that's just a very small amount. Oh, yeah.
Hi, I just have a quick question.
Yeah.
I know we discussed PTSD for veterans and cancer patients, chronic pain, but also, I just want to make a point that there are also some anecdotal evidence that it alleviates some negative side effects in individuals living with autism. So that's something that I feel is very affected by a lot of individuals, especially since the rate of autism has increased in 1 in 60 children being born now in the U.S. I think that's something powerful just to be able to kind of reference autism as well.
Yeah, and there's a group, they'll probably know, it's called Mama, I think.
We got some mamas in here, don't
Oh,
we?
awesome, yeah, but
Yeah, there's.
It's actually it's more of a qualifying condition. Great, so that's something that people can mention as well.
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Yes, and Mama has done so much great work on that, just to focus just on autism and not just that specific group. And I mean, all of us, you know, we have somebody in our lives or ourselves that can benefit from medical cannabis, and it's just telling these personal stories, making the connection with your representative, and letting them know, like, this is my life, or this is my child's life, and I want to be able to pursue, you know, an effective medical treatment that is non-toxic and is a safer choice than many pharmaceuticals, and has been shown to help in ways that many pharmaceuticals can't. So lifting the cap on the amount of THC, you know, doctors and their patients should be the ones deciding what levels of certain medications are going to help with health conditions. There are a lot of studies that show, you know, it's not just the CBD part of cannabis, it's the THC itself that is important and has healing properties in it. You know, it's a great step that we have this law now, but it just doesn't go far enough. And I guess, you know, the thinking was, well, take out THC, that's the psychoactive part, and that's the part that makes you feel high, but that's also a very important medicinal part of the plant as well. You know, especially like if you're talking about, you know, chemo patients, it's the THC that helps with the appetite, and that's something that, you know, on a human level, you know, you're going through fighting cancer and you're getting chemotherapy, and, you know, you're not even allowed to use the thing that can give you an appetite and help you feel a little bit better and help you eat something. You know, so THC is important. There's a couple sort of technical legal things as well. The law says that your doctor can prescribe this medical cannabis to you, but doctors can't prescribe a Schedule I drug. Doctors are in danger of losing their license or disciplinary actions if they can't write a prescription and, like, you get to Walgreens. So some doctors, you know, may still be willing to talk about this to their patients and to recommend it, but many won't. So we need to change that language from prescription to like a doctor's recommendation. So that's just a little technical part. Yes, right there.
That's a valid point, but the DA's schedule puts the Schedule II. That's going to be a huge one.
Yeah, that would be awesome if it was no longer a Schedule I drug. Because Schedule I drugs are drugs that have no medicinal value at all. Even like cocaine is like a Schedule II drug. So they used to use it as like euthanasia.
I believe it's going to happen.
You do?
I believe it's going to happen probably soon.
And that would be.
Yeah, like
There's a lot of stuff out there.
Can't count on it.
I don't know. If that is going on, then I definitely would like to know more about it. But yeah, it would have to be that it's rescheduled.
Said that they're studying rescheduling cannabis from Schedule I, and it's supposed to release their decisions this summer. I hear a lot of rumors, July 3rd, August 3rd, so they said sometime this summer they'll release their final on what they decide to do, whether they put on Schedule II or take off Schedule II.
The Schaefer Commission did the same thing in the 1970s, and they still made
Yeah,
it illegal anyway.
But I think even just stepping down from 1 to 2 would be a really important step and something that we've been talking about for years.
I was just gonna say, we expect that with the base that has come out that by the end of August, they will have released a report that's on a very and the DEA over the years has reviewed and consistently chosen not to reschedule cannabis. Obviously, with what's happened in Colorado on the West Coast with legalizing recreational use, and now being 25 states with medicinal laws, not including CBD only states. It seems like it'd be more promising than any other time before now. I'd say it's worth it to know what to do in case it doesn't happen. But I'm all for holding out hope and hoping that the DEA does make the right choice this time. It's just that they haven't in the past, and we should do what we need to do to promote changing the law to make it more effective here in Texas and case they
Right, yeah, totally. And we'll keep an eye on that, and we'll, you know, as soon as we know, we'll absolutely let you guys know and publicize that, and, you know, as soon as we find out what happened.
I just thought I'd put it out there. This may be happening already. Is there any possible pursuit of information input, like through the organization towards the government about the current program that exists today for medical marijuana? I believe it's the compassionate investigation program. 4 people are allowed to use that, are allowed to go under that program. It was 20, I believe, under the first George Bush, and it's still closed to just those.
Oh, the federal program?
Yes, they grow the marijuana at the University of Mississippi, and it's the 17th of every month it goes out. So in other words, our tax dollars are paying for people to use this plant medically. If the argument from what sounded like the virtue it's for the same thing for everybody else.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that the government lets people, on a federal level, allows people to use marijuana medicinally and provides it to them. But, you know, they're still.
have done for about 30 years.
Right, exactly. And they've never stopped, like, through all the drug war and the crazy, you know, reefer madness, they haven't stopped that program. Right, yeah, they haven't, I don't know what exactly happened to allow those 2 people to do it at the time, but,
George Bush discontinued it, and the people who were on it were allowed to remain on it. So-
and that could be something that, if you're talking to a representative, they may not even know that. You know, there are concerns from states, like, what's the federal government gonna do? But I mean, Colorado still, you can go to Colorado and buy weed from a store. You know, so yeah, I think that would be something that would be beneficial to talk about if you're talking about medical. They say something about, well, you know, it's still illegal federally. Well, that may be the case, but did you know the federal government, you can easily, you know, research this issue and Google it and find. I saw a documentary about one of the guys who uses it. So yeah, it is really interesting that they do that, but they're still saying that there's no medical value. So okay, we talked about, yeah, recommending instead of prescribing. The last point, which is going to have another technicality about the bill, is that it allows you to apply for a license to be a cultivator, a processor, or a dispensary. I mean, you can be all 3 or any one of them, but it doesn't allow for you to have a license to be an independent lab for testing. So we want to be able to depend on the fact that, you know, our medicine is what it says it is. If you think you're taking a certain percentage of THC or, you know, whatever, that is the case, that is what you're taking. So if we had in this law, if we allowed for independent testing, then, you know, of course the company now tests it and they say, yeah, this is what it is, it's safe. But independent testing would just add another level of safety and peace of mind. And of course, that is why, you know, we have these laws with these really specific rules, is that we want to ensure that people are safe and they know what they're putting into their bodies. So I'll go ahead and go over those points again.
So what are we testing for?
Just for the levels of, yeah, the levels that are in there, the safety, purity of what you're taking.
Mold, pesticides.
Yeah,
Check
right, there
the
could be
mold.
pesticides, like just stuff in there that's bad for you that you wouldn't want to be in your food. So, and you have to, you know, kind of do your research at this point. If you can't get it independently tested, you're basically just taking the word of the company that's producing it. And of course, there are some more reputable than others. You can do your research and kind of find that out, but it would just be another level of security and peace of mind knowing that an independent lab, you know, tested this product and it is exactly what it says it is. So when we've done these in the past, we've done these kind of lobby training classes, we've talked about all this stuff, but more in general. You know, we've talked about why we need to have a medical bill passed at all, and why we need to have a civil penalties bill passed at all. But this time is different because we have a medical bill that has passed. We have this law, and now we want to make it, you know, as good as we can. So I think what's really important to take away from this is how we want this bill improved. So again, that's expanding the medical conditions, the qualifying conditions, because it's only for intractable epilepsy at this point. I talked about PTSD, cancer, and chronic pain. That does not even scratch the surface of all the things that, all the conditions that can be helped by using medical cannabis. And then lifting the cap on THC, these are kind of the doctor-oriented ones, lifting the cap on the amount of THC and modifying the language so it's safer for physicians to recommend instead of prescribe. So probably the people that you talk to, your senators and representatives, they're going to know about the Compassionate Use Act that was passed. They may not know all the details. They may not even know that it's just for patients with intractable epilepsy. I've heard people say like, well, no, we have medical marijuana. No, well, we don't. Even some lawmakers are not quite fully educated on that topic. So if you come into their office and you want to talk about medical marijuana, they may be like, hey, what are you doing? We have this already. So I think it's important to let them know, here's what the law currently is, and here's how we need to make it better and more inclusive to more, seriously ill Texans. So when you go, and when you're talking about medical cannabis with them, I think it's really important, read through these handouts, look at the talking points, especially the myths and rebuttals. I think that's so helpful because if you say, oh, I think we should expand the qualifying conditions, and I have PTSD and I've read studies that would help me and my doctors think it would help me, they'd be like, oh, what about that? And that pill, there's a prescription pill you can get. You're like, well, that's really not shown to be that effective. So these are good rebuttals to arguments. Maybe they have misinformation. They think, well, we already have this bill, it's doing enough. It's not doing enough. And here are some cold hard facts why. Sometimes you get in front of somebody who totally disagrees with you, and you're right, and you have all these reasons, but they say something and you're like, I don't know. Gosh, I don't know the answer to that question. I feel like I have to say something back, but I don't know what it is. And a lot of these facts can help you, but if not, it's always okay to say, I don't know. I'm not that familiar with the specific question, but I'm going to find out and I'll get back to you. You can email any one of us and we'll help talk you through it or point you in the direction of, getting some research. But I think the most important thing is if you do say you're going to answer that question, is make sure you do follow up, stick to your word, go home, do some research, talk to us, find out the answer to their question, and email that staffer that you talked to back. Say, hey, when I met with Senator Nelson last week, she had this question, and I didn't know at the time, but I did my research and I came back and here's the answer. So it's okay if you get nervous and you forget, even if it's sitting there on your notes and you just totally blank, it's okay. You can come back and give more information. And you can come back and talk about other things and expand on your points, or you can come talk about, give a follow-up. Like maybe you talk about a family member that is suffering from one of these conditions that can be relieved by cannabis, and a few months later you can come back again and you're like, yeah, my mom's doing a little better, but she could still be helped by medical marijuana. So I think what's really important is relationship building. The people that I've talked to who have been talking to their representatives for the last 10 years, it's building that relationship. They know them, and it's building that level of trust. And I can't remember who it was specifically, but someone told me that they were talking to their representative and they actually found out their representative had a medical condition that could be helped by medical cannabis. I mean, these are just people. These are your fellow Texans. And it's just really important to build that relationship. So right now is a really, yes.
Is there a proposal right now to change the Compassionate Care Act at all?
There's nothing yet because the session hasn't started yet. That's a good question. So right now when we're talking to our representatives, we're kind of talking in more general terms. But once the legislative session starts, there's always like a flurry of bill filing, and people are going to file a civil penalties bill to reduce it to like maybe a fine, take it out of the criminal realm. There's going to be bills introduced to modify this current act. So I can't tell you now. I'm sorry?
Do you know who the committees are that have the Compassionate Care Act?
Yeah, I guess.
Public health. To be public health.
Right, yeah, the public health committee. So, committees, that's a great point, because let's say I'm a representative, I introduce this bill, it has to go through committee before it gets to be voted on by everybody. So then you have these committee hearings, and they listen to testimony and witnesses, and it's really important, make sure that you're on our mailing list, and we'll send out emails and put it on social media when these things happen. But, we have people, like, people go down to Austin to testify when these committee meetings happen, because if you have a committee that's just like, whatever, we're not going to legalize marijuana, they'll let it die. The bill will die in committee. It'll never get voted on. by the whole House. So I think one of the most important, especially if one of your representatives is on like one of these committees, you know, a criminal committee or health and human services committee, that those are the most important people that they know these things, because then they can take that knowledge into their committee hearings and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a complicated process. You know, it's hard. We would have already had marijuana legalized if it was really easy. You know,
Amen.
if we could just sign a petition and like vote on a ballot measure, this would have happened a long time ago. But this is the way the law is, and we just have to work within it. You know, you just have to talk to your representatives, convince them, go down to Austin, testify at committee hearings, just be available, tell your story. Okay, like 4 years ago. Yes.
Is there a reason why we can't have it voted on petition?
That's just the way that Texas law is. That's our Texas Constitution. So, I mean, there's all these conversations about like, oh, well, maybe we should change the Constitution. Because then people are like, oh, well, if the whole state was going to vote on it, then it definitely wouldn't pass. I mean, these are just things that like we could all sit around and talk about, you know, maybe. But yes, that is the way our state is designed.
Yeah.
That is our state, and they're all different. I mean, other states you can do the ballot measure. I know people in other states who have voted for it, but that's the way the Texas Constitution lays it out that we have to do it.
To his point though, if that is not the avenue that you push legislation, is there any way to kind of advocate for grassroots in terms of getting petitions just to show support that people are behind this if it is a bill that's introduced? Because from my own personal experience, I think I would talk to a lot of my friends that may not be personally affected, but parents or know people who suffer from it. If I ask them, would you be opposed to this? They say no, I wouldn't at all, and I definitely would say that. So is there something, could we do something in our own local districts or neighborhoods that we
It might help. I haven't really seen any success from that in the
Phone
past.
calls and emails to the actual district. Right?
Yeah, and I think you mentioned like
But
if
I'm
you're
talking
talking,
about people, like getting other people.
yeah, that's okay. But if you're talking to your friends
Yeah.
about it, which you know,
Your friends are represented by the same.
Right, exactly.
right? Let's say
So-
you're just talking to your neighbor and you're like, I went to this thing at the library. Do you know what it's about? It's not cannabis legalization, and I'm always kind of afraid to talk to people. I mean, not so much anymore, but especially like when my son was younger, I'd be afraid like, oh, what are they gonna do if they think I believe that? They're gonna think I smoke pot. But so many people really, I mean, you can have someone that would never go near marijuana in their life. They would never smoke it, never touch it. But they agree because of all these reasons we talked about today, that it absolutely, the law needs to change. And then the next step is like, well, why don't you just call your representative and tell him, you know, I did it. I called and I talked to him and, you know, he was really cool about it. And I felt like, wow, I actually am making a difference in my state. And, you know, this government is so crazy right now. The world's broken. Look at everything that's going on in the news. This is like a little thing that I can actually do to help make a positive change and just encourage the people you know to do that. I think at the end of the day, the bottom line, that is the most important thing, is talking to your representatives, encouraging other people you know to do it. You know, we want to have a lot of these meetings and teach as many people as possible about it, because that's basically the only way. That the legislators have to pass these bills, and we just have to convince them to do it. Yes.
Yes, Texas is not a state that legally recognizes petitions. You can still get the petition done. Your friends and family aren't as passionate, but they do agree. They don't have time to come today. They're not gonna go vote for it. You make a petition anyway. You take a copy of those signatures or email a copy, because what I did, my cousin killed himself from PTSD in Kansas. We started a petition on change.org. We presented it to his representative, and after that, he made changes. But we had asked for the changes before we had the petition, and he didn't do anything. So it does count, even if it's not legal in Texas. So go ahead and get your.
Yeah, I would definitely encourage you to do anything that you feel moved to do like that. Absolutely. Yes.
Case in point is constitutional carrier. They collected 20,000 ballots on the opening day of the session in 2015. They gathered out in front, south entrance, at a big news conference, and then hand carried those 20,000 petitions into the Capitol and dispersed them out to each individual. They had a district. So each person would take a set of petitions that were signed to the district that the people signed. And we know they didn't get constitutional care, but they got over care. They got passed. So So it could be very effective. It's a really good idea for somebody to screw it.
I think that one thing that's really important is just the media coverage of this issue. I mean, you see news stories all the time about some aspect of cannabis legalization. Someone mentioned Team Alexis earlier, little girl Alexis Fortel, who has epilepsy. Her family ended up moving to Colorado because that's where she could get the medicine that she needs, and now she's thriving there and super healthy and doing really well. But it's those things that, you could put a name to, put a hashtag to Team Alexis. It's like these things that get media attention. People hear about it. People talk about it. It's that positive news coverage I think really helps too. So if you have a story, like a sick little girl that's suffering from seizures, I mean, that's a really sympathetic. So nobody wants their kid to be suffering from something when there's a potential fix for it.
Is there also a possibility or a way for us to pursue legalization also to market in a way, like take out statistics and the Texas economy and see what areas are lacking revenue that marijuana can help the legalization?
Yeah, and especially in Texas, we're an agricultural state, and I think that that's something that maybe you can look into to talk, if you want to talk about that specifically with your representative. I mean, who doesn't want like economic growth? And that argument always works. Save money by first stop arresting people for cannabis, and then you can make money by having it in the market. So yeah, I think that's definitely a valid argument.
When the legislature starts out in January, we're going to have patient pathways down there. That's where I met most of the advocates in here in Austin, and I didn't even know they lived up in my area. So that's how I got started. I went down there and I talked to all the representatives who had autistic children, and I met like maybe 10 other moms down there with autistic children.
Yeah, it's really great when you realize that there's so many other people that just have the same experience as you, and there's power in numbers. And
when we were talking to representatives, the one thing they say to us is, does it work? Oh, it's illegal. Yeah, that's what we say, you can't.
That's a problem.
They
Never
have
tried.
does it work?
Well, they take evidence from other states that they are able to use it, because that's the point, does it work, and say yes.
That's our
It
only.
means it was
yeah, and there's other other countries have done studies that show efficacy, and yeah, we kind of have to pull from other places. I think especially if you're like, bring it to your doctor if you have a medical condition. This kind of goes a little bit outside of the lobbyist focus of this meeting, but if you go to your doctor and you're like, I found all these studies that my specific condition can be helped. Like, what do you think about that? Do you think this is, what do you think? And maybe they haven't ever heard of that. They read it, and maybe that's another way to open up a dialogue with your doctor. Right, and you can leave it with them and they can read it. Yes.
I think the other tactic that y'all need to think about is grade 5. You get grade 5. So before the
I
legislation.
think they do. I want to know.
Y'all, we're the ones.
Yeah.
That's something we can focus on, that we all.
Yeah.
We need to find a representative.
Yeah.
Someone to represent our group.
Yeah, I mean,
Well-
that's a good point. It's like we're just people just like you guys standing up here. We just decided, like, why isn't anybody doing this? I guess we better make it a nonprofit grassroots organization to legalize marijuana in Texas. But I mean, DFW NORML, it's everybody in this room. It's all of us working hard and talking to representatives and going to Austin and getting on the bus at 6 in the morning and talking to people and working with your representatives to convince them to file this bill. And some of us have more time than others. Some people are lucky, like, they can say, oh, well, I work from home, or, I have all this freedom. I personally don't have a ton of time, but I want to do what I can. I'm working in a school, but this summer I'm not in school, so I'm here, today talking to your representative. So anything that you can do is absolutely helpful and necessary, yes.
I just wanted to comment on your autism message which you mentioned earlier. Brief story. I'm on a pain patient. I was diagnosed with migraine pain, and I had a medical appointment in California. And that's something that I think that you could phrase it that way when they ask, does it work? You can say, it does in Israel, where they've been researching it for 50 years. It does in Canada. It does in 25 other states. It won't work in Texas until you vote to change the laws. We need your your support.
And-
And I think phrasing it that way, not just with legislatures, but people that we need that may not be informed about, or even against what it is that you're saying. When you show them concrete evidence, it gets people to at least consider it.
Yeah, a lot of tactics that we work on, when anybody has, if there's any autistic moms here or special needs parents, asking which actually.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great point, because we have people who have done, all this research, have stacks of studies, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. This is a great resource, just everyone in here today, I'm sure that, we can all learn from each other. Thank you for offering that, and of course, we're all available to help you some more. So I guess my challenge to you is just pick up the phone and call your representative's office. If you don't want to do it alone, we can send someone with you. It's kind of fun, and you just feel really good about yourself when you do it. You're like, I've done something, instead of sitting around being like, what can we do to change the laws? Oh, it's so horrible. Like, you have actually done something. And I mean, this isn't just for marijuana law reform too, it's for any issue that you care about. Go talk to your representative. That's the only way we're gonna change laws in Texas, actually doing it. So I guess we're 4:10, if you want to wrap up.
Yeah, we'll wrap some up. Let me ask, how many people have spoken to their representative before? On the phone only? How about in person? How many people have been to Austin to speak at the Capitol with your rep?
How many good ones?
Did anybody ride the bus with us to Austin?
It's fun.
Yeah. Okay. Would you ride a bus with us to Austin?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So one thing, because I've done this a few times. One thing that enough people don't realize is you can go in with too much ammo, and you can overwhelm this person, and that's the wrong approach. 2 or 3 very good points is plenty for some of these people. You don't have to walk in with studies. Go in with an understanding of what you want to talk about and your 2 or 3 main points you want to make. Because you want to walk in and feel like that they're respecting you and your time, and that they can say the same thing about you. That you're not coming in to just waste their time, or tell them something that they've already heard, or maybe something that they don't even care about. But if you go in and you respect their time and know exactly what you're going to say and cover it, then it's going to be a little bit different situation than if you're going in and turning this into a protest. Okay, because it doesn't have to be that. Even if they don't agree with you, it doesn't have to be that. You can have a civil dialogue with these people because they're paid to do this. And so you don't have to be afraid, because I was like Elizabeth was saying in the beginning, I thought surely they were going to send the cops after me, the weed guy. Nope, hadn't happened yet. And they know they can probably kick my door in at any time and find a misdemeanor amount of pot. Do they? Nope. Why? Why can we do that? Because we're going about it the right way, I think. And so if you go in with confidence in your message, and maybe some backup like Elizabeth or me or anybody else who loves to talk to representatives about this, it's a different conversation. It's not one that you have to be afraid of. It's a bit thrilling in its own weird marijuana nerd way. Is anybody in here a marijuana nerd? Because I am. And so I geek out on this in my own odd way. This is fun to me. And so it can be fun if you just get past the fear of it and go in knowing that 1 or 2 things, that's plenty, really. And then for the next time, you're going to have another 1 or 2 things. And you get that constant stream of dialogue going with these people. And it becomes less, oh, hey, Sean, it's the marijuana, or Sean, the marijuana guy is in. It's more like, hey, my friend Sean that I represent is in. Because you've actually made the effort to not just be about one thing with them, not just come in and hammer them, not just come in and waste their time. You are playing their game their way, and they can't help but respect the hustle, the professional hustle that we can bring to it. You agree with that?
Yeah.
Juliet?
Very good tip is to immediately, if possible, find something you can relate to that person on. You see a picture on the wall of them fishing, hey, where was that at? I fished that fish before, that, and then get in your conversation. Make friends with them.
Absolutely, and if you're not good at in the moment figuring that stuff out, situational awareness isn't that strong. These people are very Googleable.
Yes.
You can go and get on their Facebook page and see, oh man, this dude likes fishing. You know, and so it's that simple for you to go in and know more about them than they're expecting you to. And they can't help but kind of like that because you've done your homework, not just about what you're talking about, but on them. And so if you know that your rep is somebody who's particularly passionate about veterans' rights, you got an open window right there. And that's a large number of our representatives, actually. Or at least so they say. And so every one of those little windows is your opportunity to dive right in. And that's what we have to do. That's what I want today to be about. And in fact, I want somebody to come up here and have a little talk with me like I'm their representative and I'm not really buying what you're selling. Does that sound cool? Okay. Let's do 2 minutes. Okay. On that. Anybody want to do a timer? Come on up here. What is your name?
Crystal.
Crystal, I'm Sean. Pleasure.
Nice to meet you.
Okay.
Representative.
Crystal, come stand right here so the live stream can pick you up. Okay. So, hi Crystal. Thanks for coming to see me today.
Thank you for making time for me. I'll be brief. Do you have anyone in your family who is suffering from something medical that's painful to them now or has passed from something that was painful and medical related?
Whoa. You kind of lost me there. Crystal, what?
Are you related to anyone who's in your family or that you know who has a medical ailment that causes them pain?
I think I probably am.
Awesome. I'm a person who lives with chronic pain. I'm here to tug at your heartstrings for anyone that you care about. And I'm here to ask for your help and your support. Thank you, guys. In changing, modifying the medical marijuana policy to support other patients who are suffering and can benefit from changes.
Isn't marijuana an illegal drug, Crystal?
In some states, but there's a federal government program that allows for usage.
A federal government program? I'm not big on the federal government. I'm a big Texas Republican. So medical marijuana, don't we have a medical marijuana program here? We just have, I'm sure we just voted on something.
We do, and I appreciate your support in that. It only covers epileptic patients right now, and there are other patients who suffer just not from the same ailment, but in ways that are just as severe.
Okay. I did not know that. Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you.
So what do we think, guys? How did you do? Give her a hand first off. I got respect to that. That was never me when I was in the crowd. Let me tell you, I was like, hello. Let someone else do that. Very nicely done. A couple of pieces of feedback. Actually, here, can I get does anybody have any feedback for her, first off?
The first thing that I would say is I know you were excited to get that immediate response, but when they did say that they had, everyone Sean said he did have family members that suffered from pain issues or anything like that. Your immediate response was awesome, and I think that's awesome for you because it allows you to go to your next point. But maybe say, I'm sorry to hear that.
I appreciate what you're saying here. That's not what I mean. That's good. That's not what I mean. Here's what I think you could have done better. You could have got to the point quicker, for one. You think about you only have like a little bit of time with this person. I think that you can easily get to the point very quickly and tug at their heartstrings without saying it. You know, you don't have to preface it. You know, you come in and you lay it out there for them, and then hopefully the result is the heartstrings have been tugged upon, right?
Right. When you call and make an appointment, their office staff will give you about a 15-minute window where you ask, how many minutes do I have? You know, and leave a handout with a picture of, you know, yourself. So they've got your name with that face.
Right.
You know, there's been a tally of when you call and things like that. So, you know,
I have my own piece of constructive criticism
Okay.
as proof to you
Yeah,
guys.
okay.
Be prepared.
Well, so it's a little last name. You did good for getting last names. Okay. And who else wants to try that real quick? Come on down. Your hand went right up. What's your name, sir? Rob. Rob? Nice to meet you, Rob. All right. Welcome. Come on in, Rob. I'm your Texas Republican representative. How can I help you today?
First off, it's nice to meet you, Texas Republican House Representative. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm busy as ever, man. What can I do for you today?
I can imagine. Are you aware that the federal government every month, every 17th of the month, distributes cannabis medically to 4 people in this country?
There's a lot of federal policies that don't make a lot of sense. As a Texas Republican, I'm trying to change a lot of that.
I'm right there with you. I'm glad to hear that from you. Also, are you aware that the FDA has a patent on marijuana?
I have a big problem with the FDA and a lot of government oversight. So here's where you're gonna fall into a lot of, somebody else's, I just don't like that, what you just said right here. So you're not allowed to be personal, okay? Come at me personal up here. Don't worry about the federal for a second. Come at me why you are standing here on your Saturday talking to me about marijuana.
Well, Representative, a little background of me is I'm a United States Navy veteran. I just actually got out earlier this month. And some discoveries through my medical treatment that I've had in the military found that I have an anxiety disorder, I have ADHD, and I've also been diagnosed with major depression disorder. And these are all 3 symptoms I've discovered that marijuana can help.
So you're currently using marijuana illegally, so.
Hell yeah! Define big.
You don't have to answer that. Okay, I'm doing research, sir. Obviously, I can't answer that question. Or you say, you go for the gusto and say, yes, sir, I am. Because you know why? He's not going to call the cops on you. Juliet?
My response to that would be, I spent a month in Colorado myself personally, and I felt better than I had in years. And now I'm suffering again, throwing up pain medication.
I wish more Texans could say that. That's great. I've never even been myself. Please continue.
That really was it, Representative. I just wanted to wrap it up with saying that I'm not the only one in Texas who's a veteran who's been affected by certain elements that marijuana can help. With your support behind any sort of legislation to push forward with getting it legalized in the state for everybody, not just have electeds, would be very helpful.
Okay, that was good. I think that was great. Arthur, feedback?
Yeah, I've got some feedback for you. For one thing, I want to say personally, I have met with every senator and every House of Representatives in the cabinet, and that's true. A lot of them more than once.
Yeah.
But I want to say this, I've never had one be rude to me. I've never one really had to get in my face or try to do what you were doing in terms of, trying to throw me off. If you go in there and you are nice and respectful, they're going to be nice and respectful. You have to understand that even though they're nice and respectful, they may hate your guts. And they may not agree with what you say, but they will be nice. And they will not be your friend. So keep that in mind for the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, they haven't. They haven't. There's always going to be that first one, right? Okay, so that's what I want to prepare you guys for, to not be intimidated in that conversation. Okay, because they can't intimidate you. They work for you. Rick?
I'd like to disagree with one word that you used, nice. They're not nice to you. They're diplomatic.
There you
You have to come at them with equal force and still be diplomatic about it. I was lucky enough to have diplomatically in a town hall meeting in my district in Rockwall to tell my district representative that he was full of shit and able to get him to withdraw his name from being on the ballot this time around. I think that Scott Turner deserves a little bit more than not being on the ballot. But he was a driving force of Team Alexis and mine getting on the ballot. So that's mine. Get the guys, be diplomatic. See if you can get them to withdraw their names from the ballot. Some of these hard act, some of the ones that are really opposed to freedom.
Although officially I would not advise saying that anybody's full of shit or anything.
I didn't say that. I was diplomatic.
Ben?
And I think just from that, thank you. But I think it's a good indicator to all of us that we should do more lawyers and never ask the question.
Exactly.
That's a good point.
Sir, I'm sorry, Arthur.
I think the best thing out of these examples of different approaches is the personal side. Come in, tell my story, I just get Oxy after 5 months, cold turkey because.
There you go, man. What you did, when you came in and said that you're a veteran, boom, you instantaneously positioned yourself as somebody not just off the street. Because I realized that you already served your country and been through some shit, and now you draw a little box around you that I can understand.
Yeah.
Because the representative, they don't get it. They need to understand it in some way, part of their life.
I think the rep immediately gets the impression you know what you're talking about. You're talking about yourself, you obviously know what you're talking about. So then when you move on to other things, you've got a better opinion of what you're saying.
Yeah, one more thing, that's really important is this, is, usually like if you go down on a bus or something, you're usually going down for a lobby day of some sort, you know, where a lot of people get together. And, while I talked to every representative up there, in the last session, every lobby day, if we had a lobby day, I went down there, I'm retired, I don't have any obligations, I can go when I want to go. But when I was going down there, I would call at least 4 representatives to get appointments every time they had a lobby. So I only have 2 representatives, a House and a Senate representative. So how can what allows me to talk to 4 representatives who don't represent me? Well, after a bill is assigned to a committee, there's anywhere from 6 to 7 to 12 committee members in that committee. And you can talk to every one of them about that bill. So you can not only talk to your own representative and have a reason to do something, but after a bill has been signed to committee, you can talk to those committee members, every one of them, about that bill.
That's a damn fine point. Good. I'm glad you brought that up, Arthur. And you know, in going to Austin, you can, here, I'm gonna turn this, go down there with a friend, and then, you know, somebody who doesn't live in your district, and you guys hit both of your reps.
That's 8 appointments, and you can go with your friend to their persons, and that staff will ask you, well, what are you doing here? You can tell them.
No, my constituent, no, I don't live in your district, she does.
Right.
I'm here for emotional support.
There's a video of my daughter taking herself.
Yes, sir.
I was also gonna say, I'm sure not everybody has lived in the exact same city, in the exact same district in Texas their entire lives. I know some people have, but, for example, I went to college in Corpus Christi. Abel Guerrero was my representative in Corpus from Morristown, and he's the chair of the Criminal Jurisprudence Committee in the House. So there's other connections that you can make with people. I've met with them when I was in college when we first ran, and there's a lot of other connections besides just who's representing the country.
Sure, absolutely. So does anybody feel like they maybe have a fear of sitting down with one of these people that we have not sort of addressed yet in some way? Or any kind of uncertainty? Good, because it's really easy. And like I was saying, kind of thrilling in its own nerdy way. And so every one of you, as Elizabeth said earlier, is normal, is DFW normal. I don't care if you have a membership card or not. You being here today proves that you're about something that I like. And I want to help you. And so how many people in here are going to, with this week, call their representative and talk to them about marijuana? Okay, good. I want to challenge you to try to get some FaceTime with them. Because they're not in session. So this is a great time to make friends. They're at home. They're in your district, in the office that you drive by this sign. Office of Tony Tinderholt, which is my, does anybody have Tony Tinderholt as their representative? Anybody live in Arlington?
Isn't he up for re-election?
Oh, yeah.
So right now,
Yeah, and this is a guy who's like sympathetic and empathetic, but not really trying to like lead the charge, so to speak. Even though he's a veteran, that's like the that's the window to me. And so, you know, I have a brother with stage 4 mantle cell lymphoma, and that's what I go in and talk to Tony Tinderholt about. He doesn't know that I'm normal. I met with him 4 or 5 times. I've never introduced myself as the normal person. And it's always about my family that I go in and talk to him about. Damn it, I need some cancer medicine for my family. And so that could be all of you, even if it's not your family, if it's your best friend, it's your grandmother that passed away already. This could have helped her then. It's still passionate or important to me now. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to add in, when you go, every time you go, for whatever reason, take a thank you card and leave it.
It's a great idea. Never even do that.
Always send it. Always send it written.
Oh, send one, okay, I don't
No, I
need
take
one.
one already written and leave it.
And save the postage.
Cause I don't
Really, we're gonna get some DFW normal thank you cards now. It's gonna be on nice stationery. Yeah. So, okay, guys, do you have any other questions?
I would just like to say one thing, I know we were covering lobbying and all that thing, we didn't talk about it, but I really have some specific questions for it. But if anybody knows anything more about getting permits for grows, I've got a partner, we're going for about 5 acres, and there's no information out there, nothing except wait. And, you know, that's absolutely nothing, so it makes it hard to go out and purchase, you know what I mean? And all I can find is one company in Texas that's doing it now, because of me.
That Patrick Moran's company? Yeah, he's been in this room several times. He's been hustling that for like 4 or 5 years. He can be the first person to sell legal cannabis.
Yeah, I wasn't.
Yeah, a lot of people have told me they're gonna be the first, it's gonna be Patrick Moran. And that's because he's been in these rooms since before I was, actually.
I'll be the second.
There you go. Gunther, Texas, if you don't know that, Gunther, Texas, they're about to open a dispensary in what is it, 100-year-old cotton gin?
Yeah.
That is gonna turn into a museum and a dispensary of CBD oil.
That's how I'm voted, love
They love it. Mayor of Gunther loves it. That's a marijuana-friendly mayor in Gunther, Texas. And what is Jeremiah's?
White Wright.
White Wright just got elected a new marijuana-friendly mayor. So that's 2 marijuana mayors in North Texas right there. Boom. And each one of our mayors could be that next marijuana mayor who comes out and says, you know what, this should be happening in my town.
And I look at Governor Texas, and they're all there.
Yes, sir.
And that's something that we kind of, I guess, hit on with people that are currently on who that are supportive, and also that people are going to be up for the election coming up here in November. So, and that is also a chance to support progressives. You can challenge your current elected officials to represent you while also supporting and helping to elect more progressive people into office to further our cause and other progressive causes too. So,
Yeah, very well said. And, you know, and since a lot of these people are up for re-election, guess what they're looking for?
Oh,
Whoa. Wouldn't have had to guess for that one. Volunteers, campaign volunteers. So, you know, if there's a rep who's this close, you know, you could say, hey, you know, I could have a whole bunch of campaign volunteers who will block walking for you if you would just get on board with medical marijuana.
I think still be a lobbyist that has its ear.
We
Still have it as out, I don't believe it'll be changed.
You know, I agree, sort of. Here's what I know about Abbott. He told us that he would veto every marijuana bill that hit his desk and he signed the first one. So, I'm gonna just see what happens, is the way that I'm gonna go about that.
In the Texas House this year, we have 28 libertarians that are opposing incumbents for all 3 new people going on the ballot. We have 1 Green Party representative for the Texas House. We have 132 ballots that are on, or 132 ballots that are up for election right now on the Texas House. We have 6 that are unopposed. We got Republicans and Libertarians only on the ballot, 1 that's a Democrat, Libertarian on the ballot. We need to be paying attention to who the party is that's been on our side.
Since the 70s.
Since the 70s.
Its inception.
Exactly.
So Gary Johnson, Libertarian candidate for president. I don't know if you know about him, but if you don't, you should. He's been a lot of things on marijuana for a long time, and yeah, he's actually qualified. I think.
Don't forget your conservative reps.
Yeah, if you go in the right
On
way.
both sides of the aisle. You know, conservatives want limited government, and so like stop arresting all these people.
So, okay, guys, so any other questions? Because we're kind of running over on time, but I just want to make sure we cover everything there.
Yeah, I just want to make a quick statement here. I've been following this since I retired from the Navy in 2008. I've been out here in the grassroots effort working with Elizabeth, Sean, and everybody else that's been in this room. It's been in meetings since 2008. And this has changed a lot. It's no longer a liberal event. It's no longer a liberal idea. This is crossed the party line. It's already there. The Republicans have already voted a plank for it. This is as conservative an issue as anything else, and the Republicans just need to be educated. All right, what's one of the most conservative ideals that we have in the Republican community here in Texas? Right to life. Tell me why this is not a right to life. This is a right to life issue. You bring that up to them, it's right. You know, Down syndrome children, I'll give you an example, children with extra chromosome, if they don't die of a car accident, a bus accident, or cancer, they're gonna die of Alzheimer's disease. Right? Cannabis breaks through the blood-brain barrier and helps to be a neuroprotectant to help to save their lives. Other countries are finding this out. The four-wheel. So this is about a right to life for those children. It's a right to life for autistic children. It's a right to life for veterans who, when we have 25 a day, kill themselves in this country. So you take that to your Republican representative and you tell them this is a very conservative ideal and this is something that we have to do to save lives. And you're going to change hearts and minds that way.
It's not just right to life.
It's a whole gamut of it. You have the liberal side, you have the conservative side, the economic side. This is America, and that's what this is all about. We're Texans. We're going to be free.
Can you tell who used to be the director of this chapter? All right. Well, any of you had one last question?
One last question. I was wondering how to collect signatures, and just if you have ideas, can you please post it on the event or in the group? I'm thinking I'm just gonna go stand at the elementary school on election day and ask people as they come out, hey, are you okay with supporting medical marijuana change so that I can get medical marijuana for my chronic illnesses? Yes or no? They'll sign me or they won't. Good idea.
Great idea.
Petition and put it.
A petition is a great idea. For me, I like to think a little bit beyond that because I feel like that's the way it's always been done is petitions. Maybe not here, but that's what they're used to seeing, I think. And so if you're going to get somebody to write their name down on a piece of paper, what would be really good to go along with that name?
Email.
Okay, maybe. How about their reason for why they support this? And maybe their address, so you can mail that letter to their district representative. Because if they get the handwritten letter with their personal reason why, that's worth a lot more than walking in with a bunch of signatures that can't be validated in any way, can't be verified in any way, right? And so that may be a powerful statement to come in with a bunch of signatures, but unless they're collected in a way that is the way to do it, which we could debate that all day long. But if you go in with just a bunch of names and a little statement, that's going to be powerful like this. But if you go in with a stack of these letters of people who have said, this is why, and yes, mail this to my representative, then we'll provide the damn postage, okay? Like that is the way that laws are going to change here, is these people contacting directly, not letting somebody else do it for them, okay? Signing a petition online is great. Sending an email is better. Making a phone call is better. Sitting in person is better. Catching them in the hallway at the Capitol for 2 minutes is better than all of that, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. So take it for what it's worth. Guys, I want to thank you all for coming out. I really appreciate it. Can we do a group photo? Yeah. All right, everybody come up here. Let's do a group photo real quick. And then for those who want to stay, we'll do a quick raffle. Everybody come up to the front, please. Group photo time.
You bet. Glad you made it back. Sorry, I was like that. Oh, did you? I just stopped and said.
Okay, a couple of you guys scoot in a little bit.
I know.
Could you come up front? Couple of there.
Join us, take a knee.
Short ladies, up front, up front.
And handsome men. Everybody say evidence.
Evidence.
That'll work with her a little. One more.
Lovely. All right, thank you all very much. Appreciate it. That's the end of the meeting. Herb's the word.